To all the dreamers who do, welcome to our episode with Divyanshu Damani, the CEO and co-founder of Tag Mango, also a social media influencer. So, Divyanshu, how are you doing, man?
All good, man. Life is great. Startup's pretty crazy, so can't complain.
So, Divyanshu, I know for a fact that as you know, you're one of the youngest people to be backed by Y Combinator, the Twitch founder, XLM Media. And I know it looks very glamorous, but I'm sure there's an aspirational story behind it, which involves a lot of hustling, a lot of iterations,
Sure.
rejections, interactions. So I'll try my best to decode your journey. Can you
Awesome.
please help me like understand what is the good work you guys are doing at Tag Mango?
Sure. Um, I mean, I can talk directly about the company and startup in terms of what we are building per se, and then we can decode the overall struggle and the story behind actually reaching where we've reached till date. So primarily at Tag Mango, we are building business tools for creators. So we are helping creators, social influencers, YouTubers overall monetize their audience. One of the biggest pain points out there for content creators is that they have audiences that believe in them. And the only way they can effectively make money is through brand partnerships. But the number of brands that grow along with the number of creators that we are seeing in terms of a boom is not in symmetry. So there's a massive gap being created where the number of creators in the country are exponentially growing. However, the number of people spending on influencer marketing is not. So to cater to that gap, there are a bunch of creators with a million plus followers realizing that hey, we've gotten into this, we've gotten the fame and the reputation, but there's no money in the bank. And to solve for that particular problem itself, we said that all this while, the real gold mine has been for every creator, their audience itself. So why can't the creator effectively go to the audience and say that, hey, if I provide you this particular service or this particular value add, would you be willing to pay? And 1% of that audience, which is you can call like a super fan or you can call someone who really trusts that particular creator, are willing to say that because this particular creator has given me value over the last 1 2 years throughout his or her content piece, I'm willing to take out my wallet and make that payment. And that payment could be for exclusive content that they get for the creator from the platform, could be exclusive access that they get from the creator itself, could be on the education side where the creator is hosting workshops, tutorials, etc., etc. So any form of service in terms of where they can monetize their content can be done on the platform, and the platform enables everything end to end. So from the creator asking for the payment to also deploying that particular service happens directly on the platform itself. So that's what we've built at Tag Mango. Massive scope overall from a creator side of the world, and we are seeing like incredible growth in numbers. We are seeing case studies where people who were making 30,000 per month in through their offline
Wow.
kind of work are now making more than 5 times of that. So there's a creator called Khan Trickster. He made 30,000 per month through his offline teaching, what he used to do. He's got like 300,000 followers on Instagram, but had zero money through brands, zero money through any other format of his social following. In the last 3 weeks, he's made 1.5 lakh rupees from the platform by putting out service on the platform itself. So for him, his life is entirely changed. How he's gonna send his kids to school, how he's gonna buy medicines for his parents, everything end to end has changed. So we are like super. The team is extremely pumped right now with respect to what we are building and the kind of response we're getting.
Right. So, Devanshu, before I just talk more about Tag Mango, can you just help me
Sure.
understand? I saw this interesting video of yours where you talk about on a coffee
Yeah.
conversation. This name Tag Mango and the idea came up. What can you explain me? What is Tag Mango? Is it like mango is like a fruit or what is it?
This is the most common question that I get with respect to what's Tag Mango, what the name is. So usually I tell people, and this is my standard answer. Now I've prepared this well. That there are two stories to this. One is the real story, which I'll share, and the other is the PR story that we usually sell to news media outlets and investors and all of that.
Please, happy to.
So yeah. So the real story goes this way. Both Hassan and me, my co-founder Hassan and me, both of us are very, very bullish on speed. So we say that, hey, we need to be fast in execution. And when we actually came up with the idea for Tag Mango initially, this is the previous model, we said that let's not ponder upon the name for a long period of time, because a lot of people delay execution because they do not finalize upon the name. So we say that, hey, we have a hard stop of 2 weeks in order to which we have to find the name and finalize upon it. That's it. Because then we get registered and get the ball rolling. So we got down to it, figured, and the only requirement with respect to the name was that we wanted a .com name. Like that's the standard requirement. And we were open with offbeat names, like a Zomato is a very offbeat name. There's no particular meaning out there. So we were open to that. So when we started out, we started doing a lot of permutation combination, put down a list of things, list of my names and connected to me, Hassan's names, his family, fruits, vegetables, animals, whatever element and factor you can think of. And we were doing permutation combination to figure out what's a cool name. So then we put down, then it was close to the 2 weeks, and we put down social media metrics in terms of what are words around social media. So we put up, I think, like, shares, subscribe, tag, a bunch of these things we were picking up. And along with that, we were like doing permutation combination with fruits at that point of time. So tag orange came, tag guava came, and then tag mango.com was available. So since the .com name was available, we said, looks interesting. And we had this 15, 20 names that we narrowed down upon with respect to the .com. And that was the last day I remember that we had to finalize upon the name. We said tagmango.com sounds very atrangi, very different overall. It has a catchy tone to it. We called up 4 to 5 people. We said that, hey, what do you think? What do you think? He said, sounds good. Let's finalize. Let's go after it. So this is like the real story. There's not a lot of action in it, but the PR story, what we sell right now, is very, very fun. So usually when someone asks me this question, I say that this is a very well thought name. We spent a lot of time thinking about this name in particular. And then I say, because we are around the social media side of the world, so we were looking at connotations to social media and that side of the world. So we took up tag as a sweet spot. Everyone understands tag. And then one of the objectives and missions at our company is that we want to build financial independence for the Aam Aadmi. So Mango is a connotation for Mango people. And us building financial independence for Mango people and the Aam Aadmi out there is how we came up with the name. So this is the PR story that we go forward and sell to most people. So that's like the background behind the name, man.
Nice, nice. So, Devanshu, tell me one thing that you mentioned about onboarding these interesting artists. So, what is the
Sure.
process you guys follow here? Why should like a creator? How do you guys sell this platform to these artists?
So how do we sell the platform? Primarily, it's identification of the gap. So we tell them that, hey, you're only be able to make X amount of money through brand partnerships. We are very, very confident that you can 5x that revenue through the platform. If you don't make it, we'll pay you for the same. So we are that confident. Yeah. So we are that confident in terms of, like, you follow this offering, you follow this marketing plan, you're definitely going to make money. And we are selective in terms of the creators that we effectively go out there and say that, hey, this is an offering that we can provide you to. And most people agree with it. We are now that the entire creator ecosystem is starting to know about this entire platform, and a lot of people, there's a lot of noise around the creator ecosystem with respect to Tag Mango. So it's becoming much more fun. People are already getting educated while we are reaching out to them, so it's becoming much easier to like convince them to come onto the platform. The only friction that comes is that they're still very skeptical around monetizing their audience, that, hey, what will the audience's response be? And again, like, that's for us to convince as a product that, hey, if you follow this offering and this pricing model, we figured this out. These are the case studies of people who are already making that much money from the platform, so why not you? So that's how we go about reaching out and talking to these creators.
Right. You have this very interesting space actually. Who do you think are your competitors? Because I see these platforms with massive user base like YouTube or
Sure.
Facebook. If they change the strategies a bit, and they also introduce the Mango element in it. Do you think that can cannibalize your sales, or is there more to your product which makes it unique?
In it, I missed the middle part in terms of you meant that YouTube or those players thinking of coming into the space. Is
Yeah.
that the question?
If they make it
Okay,
easier to monetize their,
sure.
user base.
So YouTube is doing it even right now. YouTube has been doing it before we're effectively doing it. You can also build membership communities on a platform like YouTube at this point of time as well. The challenge with a bigger company like a YouTube is that they are not very creative focused in terms of building that particular product or that niche because their core product is different. And till you don't work extremely closely with the creator to understand what the problem statement is, it becomes highly difficult for the creator to also monetize their audience base. So YouTube already has a membership, so it would particularly be very very direct competition for us. That being said, there are a lot of things on the on the product side that we are doing which differentiates us largely from any of these players. Whenever someone asks me that how do I look at Tag Mango like 5 years down the line, I usually respond that we'll be the sixth logo behind the truck. Primarily, if there's a Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, LinkedIn, the sixth logo will be Tag Mango, which will connote that all the premium stuff for a particular individual will be available on that particular platform. So if there is content which is behind a paywall, if it is courses which is behind a paywall, if it is commerce, merchandise which is behind a paywall, or even if it's like NFTs for that matter down the road, um, people will understand that okay, this is the premium side of this particular individual where all the content or all the factors that are there are behind a paywall and I can potentially purchase into it. So the standard would be that hey, please subscribe to my YouTube, Instagram, and Tag Mango. Like 2 years down the road,
Nice.
that'll be the standard.
Nice, nice, nice. Like I'm sure, man, this will be a reality just in like couple of years, with the kind of amazing product and unique features you're bringing. So you mentioned that something in Tag Mangoes, you work very closely with creators, which a
Yeah,
YouTube or a Facebook will not do because they have such a huge base. They can't cater to
correct.
every artist. So that's something unique, you guys bring here. So Devanshu, here I just want to move forward to this question I had for a while about a two-sided
Sure.
market. For a venture
Yeah.
like Tag Mango, in this
Yeah.
social media space, you to grow, you either need supply, which is like a lot of users, customers signing up to your platform, which pulls the demand, or you have a lot of supply, in terms of
Sure.
creators, who are getting onboarded and then pulling those customers, to your platform.
Sure.
So how do
Yeah.
you see it growing from a two-side
So
market?
initially, yeah. So we are not a two-sided marketplace right now. We're a one-sided marketplace. So we've effectively built this toolkit like a SaaS product where a creator can come in and build their community and their offering and their pricing and start sharing those things with their audience and get their audience onto the platform. That being said, I think a year down the road, we will figure out discovery for those creators on the platform. So creators getting discovered, like you get discovered on an Instagram, YouTube, and different platforms.
Right.
But right now, the focus is primarily on the one-sided marketplace, where we just focus on increasing the funnel of creators on the platform and their responsibility to build or bring their audience on the platform itself.
Got it. Got it. Thanks a lot for providing this perspective, Devanshu. Just want to now understand, I want to take you back a little bit and just want to
Sure,
ask you,
man.
how did you actually become a social media influencer? When did you realize, the power and the potential of social media?
So, backstory to this would effectively be that in second year of college, I was doing this social entrepreneurship venture called Wake Up Kid. And in that particular venture, we used to build a lot of uh, social awareness video content. And one of the video pieces that we made, and we had a Facebook page that grew to like 13, 14,000 people back then. And one of the content pieces that we pushed out was where both me and my co-founder back then, both of us were directly like talking to the camera and sharing our thoughts a particular like on a particular topic around social awareness itself. And that particular video did extremely well. So that gave me insight that, hey, this looks extremely interesting. This is second, third year of college. In terms of a space, I then dived deeper into it. I looked at what's happening in the Western nations around this space itself, how creators are growing, how social influencers are growing. And then I thought that this looks a very ripe opportunity for entrepreneurship to be built on top of it. The reason, like, I would not call myself a pure content creator. It's like I got into it from an entrepreneurial approach, saying that, hey, you can build an audience base and then you can use that audience base to monetize in different formats. Like, that was the thought process from the very beginning. So college got over and I was looking at what are some of the opportunities that I could potentially look at. And I had taken out like 3-4 videos back then during college as well. And one thing led to the other, man. I think there was no standard plan of action there. I kept putting out content and I was working on a few things on the side as well. And one thing led to the other. Then colleges started inviting me. uh, I think 2 months after graduation, an IIT invited me to come and speak there. So my dad was like,
Yeah.
तुम क्या बोलेगा यहाँ पे, तुमको क्यों बुला रहे हैं लोग बात करने के लिए? I'm like, बात तो आपका सही है. But since that kind of sense of validation started coming in as well, I looked at it that this looks extremely interesting to double down upon. And then that's the journey around being a social influencer started picking up.
Right. So the Devanshu, would why are these institutions like IITs and other NMIMS, they're calling you? What do you talk about? Why should they
Sure.
listen to you?
That's a great question, man. They should have asked me this previously. But back then, back I think what happens is, and I've been thinking about that very, very closely. Influence in its core sense means who has influence. I think the question is rather that who has influence and who has the right to influence you. So anyone who's able to create some kind of emotion in you, be it happiness, nostalgia, um, be it any form of value add as well, where you're taking away some kind of a knowledge of it, and you are constantly providing that unique set of influence or unique set of emotion on a consistent basis, then your influence meter keeps increasing. And because I was putting out like so much of content on social, and I was always on someone's social feed, and my content was also around motivation, communication, entrepreneurship, etc., etc. So that usually allows people to take action around something. And when I've gotten someone to take action and directly impact their life, then my influence meter is by far the highest compared to even a comedy creator or anyone else for that matter. So because that influence meter increased so much and people resonated with what I shared, people really took action on the basis of what I shared, be it in the little things around in their life. That is the reason that they said that, hey, we want to hear this guy more often and maybe have more of a personal interaction around the same. Back then, I had no idea why they were calling me. Now I understand why those guys were calling me effectively, because I've been working on the space so closely, and my entire product and evolution has been in that format. Uh, so so that was primarily the reason of being called by an IIM, an IIT, and go about talking about it. And the conversation there, it was, yes, it was around inspiration. So I used to talk about things that I did back in college and really helped me become the person I am today. And along with that, I used to talk about social media a lot, how the opportunities along with social media are there, and what can college students particularly do in order to like double down upon it and like amplify it. So those were like points of conversation that we used to have.
Got it. Got it. And Devanshu, since now you touched upon influence and a positive emotion such as motivation, leadership, I'll now
Yes,
probably dumb it down and take you to a more negative emotion of setbacks or failures.
please.
I think
Yep.
you are pretty familiar with that. You were at DOSCO, you topped your pre-boards. Unfortunately, you could not perform in your boards and your dashed hopes of going to Delhi University, as you mentioned before. You were planning to
Sure.
shoot for the deferred MBA programs, the Harvard 2+2 or the Stanford
Sure.
GMAT's deferred program.
Yeah.
But again, it did not work out for you. Also, I've seen a pattern where you mentioned many times that how you got fame, but did not know how to monetize it. So again, man, like
Sure.
I just want to understand. You've dealt with a lot of uncertainties in your life, but you never quit. You had the option of going back to your family business, Marwari business of like
Yeah.
garments,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you still kept at it. You kept at your podcast of the Devanshu Damani show, and here you are today. So can you please tell me, what was the
Hmm.
process, you follow when you face with these setbacks, and how do you motivate yourself to get up and start hustling again?
Huh. Um. So, man, I think a lot that happens or has happened in my life has primarily been I've always been someone who's dived right into it. That if I see that there is a potential opportunity in something, I dive right into it without thinking twice. And that's how I am as a person. Even if you ask my friends, there's an opportunity to take a trip where we can like fly down the next day, I dive right into it. Um, so what that mindset allows is that even if something does not work out, there is always something new to look forward to. And there is of course there is a period where you do feel low and you start doubting yourself around the questions. There's another like major setback that I had, I'll tell you, that I'd built an audience, very strong audience on Facebook of about 200,000 people, very strong cult. My video views were clocking at least 40-50,000 in like a couple of hours back then, 2018 itself. But Facebook changed its organic funnel like overnight. And I had built another page as well called the Soch Network. The Soch Network that had like 700,000, 800,000 people who followed the Soch Network back then. And we clocked over 100 million views independently on that page itself. And it was just a thought that I wanted to build that looks like an opportunity gap that can be filled. Facebook killed its organic reach. I did not, I made the mistake of not distributing audiences across social platforms because I was also early. I was learning on the go, young guy trying to figure things out, manage a team, do a bunch of things. And that was a huge setback because you've put in that work, you've put in the content, you've put in so much of effort to like build that audience, but then that happens. So when any of these things happen, there is a lull period where you kind of go into your shell. But usually when I go back into that shell, I give myself a deadline saying that, hey, you have the opportunity to be in this particular shell for the next, let's say, 7 days or 14 days, and do whatever you want for the next 7 to 14 days and put a deadline to it. But after these 14 days, you've got to get your shit back together.
Hmm.
And when that kind of a mindset kicks in, then new opportunities automatically start coming up, and it's very very surreal. To be very honest, nothing of this was planned. It has been very very ad hoc. The core personality trait that has allowed me to do any of this is that I jump right into it, um, without spending too much time overthinking. And that is the way to go, I feel.
Right. And while just talking to you, I get this vibe. You're the guy who really likes to execute things on the go. And you mentioned this before as well. So I guess that's one of the
Yep.
reasons why, you always succeeded whatever you do, whether it's the Devanshu Davani show, your popularity, and, your motivation talks. There's always something, an execution part to it. Only when you execute it, you'll actually know what works, what doesn't.
Absolutely, man.
And I think you are the guy
100%.
who's built out of,
I would
like a hustler, and all guys feel a lot of rejection.
totally.
You know, the approach is great, and I hope a lot of people, if they watch this, they learn
They will.
things from you as well. Devanshu, you mentioned about in one of your interviews about how Y Combinator, the 3-month program,
Sure.
changed your life completely, and also your business model. But first of all, I
Sure.
want to understand, why do you think Y Combinator chose your startup, Tag Mango?
Hmm. why do we think Y Combinator chose our startup Tag Mango? So to give you some context, this was our second time applying to Y Combinator. The first time we applied, it was 3 months into the company where we were still idea stage. Product had just launched on the day we went for the interview. We said that we have to launch product because we are getting into the interview.
Okay.
Uh, we got through the interview, but the first interview, again, we did not have a lot of product insights. We did not have customer feedback. We did not have traction. So those were challenges. And when you work on a product, you automatically, and you're working on it day in, day out, you'll automatically kind of understand what's working and what's not working because your customer will effectively tell you, the data will tell you. The next time we went for the interview, and I remember one interesting thing that happened during the interview. We were effectively selling to brands back then. So the interview was happening in Misho's office. So the YC guy said that, hey, why don't you get the Misho guys as a customer?
Okay.
In that, like at the end of the interview, I said, cool. I went back home and then I started reaching out to everyone from Misho, from the founder Vidit to the influencer marketing team, everyone out there. But did not get a response so quickly. But since I was in Bangalore, I said that let's double down upon it and figure out a way. Because the interview happened in Misho's office, I went back to Misho office saying that, hey, YC came for the YC interview yesterday. Wanted to meet with someone from Misho itself. So they gave me access. I went to the receptionist, said I knew the name of the influencer marketing guy. I think Ahmed was the name. So I said that, hey, can I speak with Ahmed for some time? I had come for the YC interview. And she pointed out that, hey, he's standing right there. You can go chat with him. I'm like, cool. Let me go chat with him. So I went there. I spoke to him again. Used the YC tag that, hey, came for the YC interview. They were building the school product, which can be very relevant for Misho. And then he said, hey, I have 30 minutes right now. We can potentially talk, and I'll get my marketing guys as well. So then I pitched them the product and we started a pilot with them right after. This is the second day after the interview. And we
Oh.
started a pilot. So we got Misho as a client. And
Hmm.
then Misho went on to become, after the pilot, Misho went on to become a repeat client for us. So they did a second interview. So
Okay.
the day we went for the YC interview again, Eric, Eric was our interviewer. So he was the interviewer the first time as well. And he was the interviewer the second time. So he remembered our faces, right? Because I mean, they remember what they are hearing usually. So the first thing we entered and said, before even they asked us a question, that, hey, we came for the YC interview 6 months ago. You said that you should get Misho as a client. Today, Misho is a repeat client doing this much of business along with us. And that's when we kind of held the reins to the interview. And second time in, we were much more, we'd made a lot of progress with respect to the startup. We were having decent traction. We were working with an incredible number of brands back then. We had a lot of product insights, and because we knew the company so well, they bet on us. That is the company plus the founders, the founding team. They'd like the founding team the first time as well, and my background as a creator, my co-founder's background from the tech side, made us a very strong like team overall to be backed. So they bet 80% was on the team, 20% on the traction. That is I think how they took the bet.
Wow, an amazing story. Yeah. Like, how you guys actually planted this thing and the Misho story in between. Uh,
Yeah, man, it was insane. It's crazy, man.
Crazy. So Devanshu, now I'll actually come to the question. If you have
Sure.
to describe, how was your Y Combinator experience life changing, or maybe I'll simplify it for you. Tell me top three learnings from Y Combinator's program for you.
Top three learnings. One is be frugal till you find product market fit and only focus on finding product market fit. All the rest around it is jargon. And the founder's time should be focused just on that. The second is learn how to communicate in a more succinct manner. Brevity is something that Y Combinator pushes so much, and it makes so much of sense that that it's just incredible. So brevity in communication is the second point. And the third point, I think, overall from a learning perspective, Y Combinator has given me is there a okay? Yeah, Y Combinator has given me an approach on how to think about building a startup. So the approach of building a startup is very different from any other business. So that particular approach around being very, very customer focused, being very, very product focused, um, instead of being, again, um, distracted by the number of things that founders can be distracted by, was, I think, the biggest takeaway for me. And the way I approach my company and my product right now is hell and heaven of a difference post YC.
Hmm. Also, I feel, because you're part of this unique Y Combinator community, you actually get to
Sure.
network with similar people who was equally ambitious and trying to do pushing the boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Unique. I'm sure
Yep.
like you have a lot of friends you built, for example, Ratin or like Sagar from GoDutch, and I'm sure this is only
Yeah,
happening
yeah.
of this amazing opportunity which they give you to network with
100%, man.
others.
100%.
So,
The community is insane, man. The community is insane. I think it's extremely powerful. It's extremely helpful. And you can reach out to anyone at any point of time. I think the community is a huge value add from a YC perspective. And one thing on the side I'd like to mention,
hmm,
you realize that how big you think of yourself for no reason at all. These guys who are our group partners, they've sold $1 billion companies. They are stars for the tech world already.
right.
And they are so humble. The humility that they exude is unimaginable. And like, hats off to them. So you understand that you just create an image of yourself in your own head and like to live in that ecosystem. But the biggest guys are, in fact, the most humblest of all.
Well said, Devanshu. And there's something interesting I'm just noticing in this podcast. I read about Sam Altman. How people
Sure,
consider him as one of the youngest, like millionaires, and then went on to do some crazy things. Now he's working with Y Combinator.
sure.
People mentioned there's something very interesting about this guy.
Hmm.
He's someone who has maturity beyond his years. When you talk to him, he might just come across as he looks like a 20-year-old guy, but he thinks like a 40-year-old, like a Bain consultant.
Sure,
The way he exudes this, the kind of maturity. And I
sure.
also feel, while talking to you, you have that understanding of, a product. Though you're so young, you're almost the same age, man. But the kind of, the way you thought about your product, given so much time, iteration, and hustled around so much, you build that kind of maturity around your business, which is amazing, man. Hats off to you. So here,
Thank you, man. You're very kind, I would say. If you're, that is all I'm gonna say. You're very kind to say that.
thanks, man. Thanks for the compliment. So Devanshu, I feel that most of the people have a turning point. Like I'll give you an example. For me, I took up squash, and that really helped me. In my college admissions, in an interview, or any social event I go to. Right, that is always my talking point. That is squash. So,
Sure.
what is your talking point? What was that turning point for you? Which actually changed the way things operate around you now, and that is your weapon.
Hmm. I haven't. I have a very different answer for this. In second year of college, when I effectively started my social entrepreneurship venture, Wake Up Kid, um, that was my first taste of leadership in its truest sense. Because in college, in college or in school for that matter, it's very structured form of leadership, that you're school captain and things like that, but it's very structured. You don't have to figure things out everything on your own. But when you start your own startup, you've got to figure out everything on your own effectively. And I was facing a lot of like challenges understanding, because I've never done an internship in my life. I've only hired interns from day one. So I had no clue of how to go about things. So to understand how I can explore the leadership side of the journey, I started reading a lot. So I came across books like How to Win Friends and Influence People. I started reading books like Influence. A bunch of really good books I started reading, and most of my college time, the 4 hours in college that I've spent, has been reading books itself. Like there's a bunch of books in St. Xavier's College that have been confiscated under the Divyanshu Damani's name and are still kept there. Primarily because I just read or slept in college. Those are the two things I did because I was either working at night or doing something at night. So catching up on sleep or reading a book. Those are the two things primarily I did in college. And coming across that amount of information was actually a very big turning point. It changed the way I thought about myself, about the world, about me as a leader, and a bunch of other things. So books in particular is what I would highlight as the turning point in my life.
Got it. Got it. Now, since you mentioned you read a lot, now this is where I want to now understand. You know,
Sure.
a lot of people throw these big words like networking, especially in business school. It's always a big
Hmm.
on LinkedIn. People are just harping about, the best thing to grow your net worth is to network.
Sure.
I think since
Yep.
you're crazily networked and connected with all kinds of people from venture capitalists, investors, startup founders, social media influencers. What is your
Yeah.
secret to networking? If you can share some insights, how should you really network?
I think networking is like my one of my strongest um skill skill sets out there. Um Networking should not be looked as networking. Networking should be looked as primarily how can I go about adding value to a person's life. And when you approach any individual with that kind of a mindset and for any reason at all, that is when you win. um, I'm always out there, and this is like what Gary Vee also talks about, that give and then ask, and the jab 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 and then hook. I'm always out there offering people to connect with other people. I say that, hey, you should definitely connect with this particular person. If you have anyone that I can potentially connect you with, whom you're trying to reach out to for quite some time and is in my network, I'll be more than happy to do that. um, and adding value to people's lives in whatever format is what I am potentially looking at, and that's the core of networking. I'll take an example of someone who's in my team right now, and I hired her primarily for this reason. So she'd been reaching out on my DMs for quite some time to get an interview along with me. uh, and she'd reached out in multiple ways, so I'd identified the name. But then one day, she came across an ad for Tag Mango and gave me feedback on the ad, constructive feedback. Said that, hey, Divyanshu, I came across this ad. These are my thoughts around this particular thing. You can potentially rethink on this ad set. And don't if you take it, um, if you don't want to take the feedback. And that is when she's provided me value without asking for anything. I said that I took the screenshot, I sent it to my team. I said, set up the interview with this girl. And really the girl's working along with me. Um, that is at the key essence of networking. And once you've gotten your foot into the door around networking itself,
Hmm.
what's super important is that um, वो हिंदी में क्या बोलते हैं उसको, आउट ऑफ इंग्लिश में भी बोलते हैं, आउट ऑफ साइट आउट ऑफ माइंड मतलब हिंदी में क्या, आउट ऑफ साइट इंग्लिश में ही है, आउट ऑफ साइट आउट ऑफ माइंड. So you have to constantly keep in touch with everyone you've met with. So I build Google Sheets of people I usually meet, conversations I've had, and I try and give them update emails from time to time, 6 months to a year down the road, that even when I met someone back in college, I still try and reach out to them saying that, hey, this is what I've been doing overall in the past few days or the past few months. Would just wanted to check in on you, checking on your health, and whatever you're doing. Hope everything's great. Just to put yourself out there and keeping that touch point open, so that it's not that 5 years down the line when you're connecting, the person doesn't even remember who you are. So that is like the second thing I would say. If you do these one and two things, I think you'll build an immensely strong network, which brings value in all forms, be it wealth, be it connections, be it times of emergency. I mean, it's just immense how helpful a strong network can be.
Right, right. Man, that was some really good insights on networking, yeah. And thank you so much. I'm going to use the same now for
Cheers, man.
my own personal benefit. Thank you so much, man. Divyanshu, just one last question. I know you're a really busy guy.
Please.
If you have to, since you've been experiencing entrepreneurship, you have this journey since you passed out of Xavier's in 2017. If there is something you need to succeed in entrepreneurship, what do you think that quality is or that skill is?
Nothing else you need, man. It's just great. That's it. You just need to know how to hustle. That's the only quality you need, in order to even, because it's so challenging every day as an entrepreneur, as a founder. It's extremely challenging. So you just need to like just be at it, and have that, what Elon Musk said, that if you need motivation, don't need a founder. Don't be a founder, or don't start a business. It's very, very true. You just need grit. You just need to be at it. I usually, right now I'm at a stage where my company is going extremely fast. The team is, I don't even know the way the team is expanding. It's like every new day on the WhatsApp group, I see a new member has joined in. I'm like, oh yeah, we spoke to this person a month back, and the person's joining in. And it's like driving a car in a dark tunnel with your headlights off. That's what entrepreneurship exactly is. And you just have to like make sure that you've got the accelerator and the gear and everything right, and you're always accelerating. If you miss out on the acceleration, then you are possibly, you'll stop or you're gonna crash. So you just figure that piece out and just be at it. That's all that's needed around entrepreneurship, man.
Ranshu,
Nothing to insightful here, man. This is the honest truth.
thanks for sharing this insight, man.